Okay, Rohan Patel, comic book movie.
Hi,
Hi,
Rohan. How are
hi.
you?
I'm well, thank you. How are you?
Good, thank you.
It's a great honor to meet you. I love what you do, and
Oh,
you've been a part of some of the greatest movies of my lifetime. So this is really cool.
awesome. I'm so glad to hear that. I can't tell you anything though, Rohan. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I
I'm just
completely
can we
understand.
just like stare at each other? I'm kidding.
Yeah, I mean that makes for a good interview too. So, um, but I wanted to start out because you've been a part of Clint's like last three, I think, appearances: Endgame, Civil War, and now Hawkeye. Where in those cases he wasn't really like responsible for what happened. He just kind of had to deal with the fallout. This time he is sort of more responsible for what's happened. So what kind of journey did you want to take him on that kind of concludes everything we've seen in the Infinity Saga to now?
Well, I definitely wanted to hit on the fallout after Endgame, right? I mean, he still has issues that he is dealing with, especially losing his family for 5 years, becoming Ronin, and then getting them back. And how's he going to be dealing with all that once they've, come back and he's Hawkeye again? So a lot of sort of unanswered things are still up in the air, and I wanted to continue that story for Clint, and I think that was the interesting aspect of trying to figure out what the storyline is for this series. And then the other side of what makes it really interesting and why I gravitated towards continuing the Hawkeye story was because there is a different side of Clint that we haven't seen yet. There is actually just backstory in general that we haven't explored yet. But one of which I find really interesting is, inspired by the Fraction Run, is that there's a side of Clint that is when he's with Kate, comes off in a different way. And I think it made sense with this particular series that we're introducing somebody like Kate Bishop coming into this world, that we show a different side of Clint that can be a little bit more humorous and lighthearted. But ultimately, I think it's because he is a human being compared to some of our heroes without, he's without superpowers, but that's what makes him sort of the family man and the most relatable compared to everybody else, which is why I think it's sort of perfect in this particular series, and why we're setting it during the holiday season as well too.
Yeah, no, the Christmas setting is so fun, and you
Yeah.
have the we saw Yelena get introduced in Black Widow, and then now you're introducing another like this awesome character with played by Hailee Steinfeld, Kate Bishop. So what was it about? How did you feel like introducing her in the Disney Plus show versus a movie? Like, well, how'd you make that decision?
Well, we started out talking about Hawkeye as a feature.
Hmm.
We originally wanted to make a 2-hour movie for Clint and Kate. But there was so much rich material and source material coming from the comics, and I think we use comics as inspiration, right? And then carry that over to the MCU to make sure that it fits in the most organic way possible. But what I was so fascinated about when I was reading those comic runs was that there was so much great stuff that I wanted everything, like as much as we can, put in the series. And I remember having that conversation with Kevin and going, well, how am I going to fit this all in and also introduce a new character and tell Clint Barton's story as well too. And at that time, Disney Plus was launching, and he was like, well, why don't we move this particular one over so that you can get a 6-hour long time span to be able to develop these characters as individual, and allow time for them to bond over the course of the mission that they go through, to becoming partners. So it made sense that this particular one got moved over so that we have that time and space to carve out that relationship.
Awesome, yeah. And the first two episodes are so their dynamic is instantly settled, and I mean, and Clint's such a great mentor figure.
Yeah.
And I wanted to ask you a couple quick hitters. I know you probably can't answer too much, but I wanted to see if did you ever after WandaVision and we saw Wanda get like a more comic accurate costume, did you ever have that discussion about maybe Clint putting on his iconic sort of mask?
Oh, the original H
Yeah,
with the pointy.
because he has
we
that LARPing scene, and it's
Yeah,
like that's it.
it's funny because this series is such lighthearted tone. We had discussion about like how fun it would be to figure out a way in order for that to be incorporated one way or another. But what ended up happening is that, as I believe there's a clip that is out there that Kate makes fun of his branding
Hmm.
issue, and that gets incorporated in terms of how she thinks Clint is like in the public eye, and partly is because due to, you know, some of the outfits that he's been wearing. But I look, it I think the big question is, would Jeremy wear something like that?
Yeah.
I think if you can get him into something like that, I'm in.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I want to ask you quickly, because like I'm sure you're aware, like there's a lot of like internet rumors like circulating, and like people make a business out of spoiling things. And like not me, thankfully, but it's and so like when you're like working at Marvel Studios, when you're on the inside looking out and you already know everything. So like what does it sort of like when you hear, oh, this character's gonna pop up in this character's gonna pop up in that, but it's like you already know, it's like, no, that's not gonna happen, or yeah, that is gonna happen, but I don't know how you found it. But so how do you like kind of deal with that internally?
Well, sometimes it's interesting reading the theories, right?
Hmm.
And seeing what people are coming up with. And you know, I think some people more so than others, I, you know, occasionally would hear that, oh, you know, people are speculating this particular subject or this particular character being in this particular project. And so you know, it's interesting to see where people's headspace is at and how they are sort of connecting the dots to what has been released versus what we are working on behind the scene, and how much or not um, people are close to what we're thinking about. Obviously, I can't, you know, speak in details about all that, but it's always interesting to read what people are thinking.
So I imagine it's a blast. But thank you so much, Trent. This has been so much
Yeah,
fun.
thank you. It's great chatting with you.
It's great chatting with you. Looking forward to the
Have a
rest
good
of the
day.
show. You too.
Thanks.